This is the Bates Bobcast, our weekly podcast that takes a look at the week that was in Bates athletics. My name is Aaron Morse, and this week we're celebrating a terrific finish to the fall season for the Bates golf teams. On the women's team, senior Alex Voight-Shelley won medalist honors at the New England Intercollegiate Golf Association Championship. Meanwhile, on the men's side, first-year Arthur Jenkins tied for 8th place out of more than 100 golfers in his collegiate debut. Plus, we preview the head of the Charles Regatta and recap a thrilling win for our 10th-ranked field hockey team. All that and more coming up on the Bates Bobcast. After a disappointing NESCAC fall qualifier, Bates women's golf senior Alex Voight-Shelley bounced back in a huge way last Saturday and Sunday at the New England Intercollegiate Golf Association Championship. She shot a 3-over par 75 on Saturday and was 5 strokes back of the leader entering Sunday's action. She gained 6 strokes over the final 18 holes, shooting an even par 72 on Sunday and capturing individual medalist honors. Overall, it was a strong weekend for the women's golf team as the Bobcats placed 3rd out of 8 squads. And Alex Voight-Shelley is our female Bobcat of the week. Even par, round 2. Take us through that round. You entered, in a solid spot, but 5 strokes back, but you gained 6 and won the tournament. Take us through the round.
Yeah, thank you. I played pretty solidly day 1. I was 3 over for the first day, but we played the starboard course. And then day 2, I just felt really relaxed, very confident. I really loved that course. I loved that tournament, and I just wanted to go out there and play the best that I could in our last fall event.
Any memorable holes that stand out?
Yeah, so on day 1, I birdied 17, 18, par 3. I hit a nice 6-iron. I'm really confident in that club. Put it to about 5 feet, made the putt, which was really exciting. And then I had a lot of confidence going into that 18th hole, par 5. Just had a nice chip on 6 feet, made the putt there. So that was a really nice ending on day 1. And then day 2, I made 3 birdies throughout that round, and I shot 1 over on the front and 1 under on the back, which was really exciting.
Did you birdie 18 again?
No, I almost birdied 18 on the back, but I just missed the putt. But hey, even par, you know what? I'll take it. Yeah,
certainly. And then, at what point? I know you come in, you submit your scores or whatever. And what point throughout that process did you learn? I guess that you won the event.
We were actually in the van on the way home.
Okay.
When I learned, I knew I was in 2nd place when we left, and I think we kept checking. And when the other girl was on her 15th hole, I was 1 back, and then I couldn't look anymore. I couldn't do it. But Maddie kept checking and told me, and yeah, it was really exciting.
So about halfway back to Bates, you kind of learned?
Pretty much, yeah.
Excellent. I understand they're going to mail you a medal or a trophy or something,
They
right?
are. They're gonna mail me a trophy, which is very sweet of them to do. But yeah, I think Maddie and I are both going to get some sort of medal or something as well.
And the team as a whole, played pretty well also, yeah. Right? We saw a sophomore, I think, had a big improvement from day 1 to day 2.
Yes.
Tell us about some of your teammates who were down there with you.
Yeah, Kendall played really well her second day. I'm so proud of her. She's been working really hard this season, and she was so excited about this tournament and playing, and so I'm really proud that she was able to play so well on day 2. And yeah, Maddie shot really well both days. Shot 76 day 1. And she also has been working really hard on her game and just be scoring well. And she's such a good player as well. And I'm so happy that she had a great final tournament.
And for you personally, I know obviously, the fall qualifier, kind of disappointing for
Yes.
The Bobcats. And even though you had one of the lower rounds on the team, obviously, I imagine that's a little frustrating. But what was it like to bounce back, and how did you bounce back like that?
Yeah, I was really disappointed in myself last weekend. I really wanted to play well at that tournament, and it just didn't come together for me. And so I put in a lot of work coming into this one. I knew what I had done wrong the weekend before. I had a lot of issues with my driver, so I spent a lot of time on the range fixing that, lots of putting. But yeah, just a lot of time on the course, focused on what I needed to do to fix my swing, and then mentally just knowing that it was our last tournament and that I always play really well at this course. I really love the course and the tournament, and I just wanted to go and have fun with my team in our last fall tournament. So
Yeah, I think the team a few years ago actually won this event.
Yeah.
It was like there was you and like 3 other teams, but you won as a team. And this year there were 7 other teams there, I guess. But I mean, what is it about this tournament that women's golf at Bates here seems to thrive, right?
yeah, I don't know. I think the fact that it's at Cape Cod
Yeah.
and it just feels half tournament, half vacation, kind of just last tournament of the year. And that, I mean, the NERJs are just run so well. Like, everything is so smooth, and they take really good care of us there. And the courses, they're like a different type of grass and different type of layout than I think what we're used to. So that just having the opportunity to play there and just to play for fun really is a good thing for us.
And I imagine it would be a little tricky going from one course to a completely different one from one day to another. How do you kind of handle that? Because, other tournaments, it might be the same course for 2 rounds, but this one is completely different.
Yeah, well, it's actually kind of nice because like if you don't play very well on one course, it's a completely different course for the next day. So you have a whole new opportunity to play well. And even if you play well on one, that gives you the confidence to play even better on the second one, because there are quite a few similarities between the two, but they're still very different courses, and they're both just very nice courses, and they play really well for our game and for mine especially. So.
And for you, it's a little bit of a book, and we're talking off air. Your very first tournament here at Bates, so it was just Bates, Bowdoin, and Huston, but you won at Martindale. And now, not your last tournament because there are a couple in the spring, but one of the last tournaments you win as well. So how cool is that to, full circle a little bit, right?
Yeah, I was thinking about that in the van on the way back. I was like, wow, that's so cool. That's crazy. But yeah, and it was nice because my very first tournament here was really just a fun tournament as well, and this one was also just really enjoyable. So I think just being able to, I worked really hard to shoot the way I did, and I'm just really happy to have done it with this team and at this tournament, and I'm really proud of what we did this weekend.
I was looking at some of the numbers they sent over, but it looks like you really dominated the par 3s. You were thriving on those. What about those holes in particular worked for you?
Well, I really like my irons. I've been doing a lot of work with my irons, and a lot of those par 3s are a longer iron distance for me. So I had a lot of confidence going into those par 3s. I knew exactly what to hit. And yeah, I knew my accuracy was going to be great, and I knew that I could make the putt. So yeah, par 3s were good attacking holes for me.
For the team, it's you and Grace are the 2 seniors. Are there any other seniors? I think it's
Mira.
Oh, Mira. Okay,
as well.
But Grace played at this tournament with you as
Yes.
one of the seniors. So what's it like to play another tournament with her? Because I know she's been on the team all 4 years. Not always in the lineup, but right next to you, practicing everything, right?
Yeah. She got injured early in the season this year. But it was really nice for Grace to be able to play that last tournament and to be able to go there with her and we roomed together, and I love her. It's been so great getting to know her these 4 years and to see her thrive, and I'm so proud of her and how she played this week after everything she's been through.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. What are your thoughts you want to share on the season or on this particular tournament perhaps we haven't got to talk about yet?
I just want to reiterate how proud I am of my team and how much I love my teammates. They were just so supportive of me after we found out that I won, and I love being on this team, and I'm so excited to see what they have to do in the future. I'm going to be really sad to leave in the spring, but I had such a great time.
On the men's side, first-year Arthur Jenkins made the most of his collegiate debut, shooting a 74 on Saturday and a 78 on Sunday, good for a tie for 8th place in a field of 102 golfers. It was a remarkable performance, especially because this was Jenkins' first collegiate tournament. The team placed 4th out of 20 schools, their best finish ever at the NEIGA Championship. And Arthur Jenkins is our male Bobcat of the Week. Well, Arthur, your first ever collegiate golf tournament, and you finished in the top 10 at the NEIGA Championship there in Cape Cod. First of all, when did you find out you were going to be in the lineup, and what were your thoughts kind of going into the tournament?
Wednesday and Thursday, we played our qualifying matches to find out whether or not I was going to play in the tournament, and the other freshman on the team, Charlie Wyman, had put together a really nice round, actually, so it was going to be I had to play pretty well to qualify, which was honestly probably the most nervous part of the week. Over the tournament. So I found out I was in the lineup. I texted my parents. I was really excited. And then I was like, man, I wonder what my first college tournament would be like. And so I was the whole week I was nervous but excited for my first tournament. But also I was like, you've done most of the hard work to get here. Now just go out there and enjoy it.
And you obviously went out there and enjoyed it quite well. And it's 2 different courses, though, I understand. So what were the similarities, differences between those 2 courses and how the days went for you, kind of?
Yes, sir. There's 2 different courses. We played one course the first day, and then the women played the other course, and then obviously we swapped. The reason I think I did so well on the courses was because the greens and fairways are very similar to the courses that I played back home. Firm fairways, firm greens. The ball rolls out a lot, which was part of the thing I struggled with when I got here because these greens are a lot softer usually, and I struggled with that. But then this tournament, these courses were very similar to what I had played. So it gave me, I don't want to say an advantage, but I definitely had more practice than most of the players who were playing this tournament, which is what made me feel confident when I got to the first few holes. So.
Excellent. And you mentioned where you're from, which is Louisiana. So tell us about how Bates got on your radar for college coming from Louisiana.
I'd obviously wanted to play golf in college. That was kind of a big goal for me. And I had talked to the coach. And then I kind of ended up looking at all the NESCACs because my dad went to college up in the Northeast. So I looked at all the schools up here. And I looked at Bates, and just the ability to play golf in college just kind of made Bates the right choice.
Excellent. And then, you mentioned it be much softer greens up here. I feel like most golfers prefer softer greens, though, right? Or are you a little bit different in that regard, perhaps?
Yes, I would say most golfers do. The ball on softer greens, it'll land and it'll spin backwards, which most golfers, probably do prefer. But I'm more used to the greens not spinning at all. So even with a high lofted wedge, hitting it into hard greens, the ball usually barely spins at all, which is hard for some people to understand the opposite because it's very, very not similar at all.
Yeah.
So, yes, I'm probably very different than most golfers in that I prefer harder greens, yes.
So how did you first take up the sport growing up?
So my dad had played ever since I was very young, and I'd always kind of been around golf. I'd play maybe once a month, but as a junior, I was really big into tennis, kind of in my middle school and elementary school days. Then I kind of got tired of that and decided I would pick up golf seriously in about the 7th grade, and then just I guess the rest is history, I guess is what you could say.
Excellent. Your first round there was pretty low. I mean, is that one of your lower rounds ever in a tournament?
Definitely one of my lower rounds ever in a tournament. Especially at a course. I've recorded some pretty low rounds at tournaments, but I'd never at a course I hadn't seen before or hadn't played before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was definitely the big difference between that and most of my high school rounds. It was definitely a low round for At one point, I believe I was my dad texted me after the round. He was like, you were leading the tournament after the 16th hole. I was like, thanks, Dad. That really makes me feel good now that I dropped down to 6, right, which is so bad, apparently. It's terrible. So.
Well, you finished tied for 8th, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
Out of over 100 golfers,
yes,
right?
Yes, sir.
And then just in terms of your teammates and everything, I mean, you mentioned, having to qualify to play, right? Mm-hmm. And so your teammates who were there with you had all played tournaments before, so what they kind of tell you kind of going in?
So it was pretty... Obviously, I wouldn't have been able to do it without them. Yeah. We ended up placing 4th, which sounds good. They didn't play as well as they would have liked, but it's still a good result. The guys on the team were super helpful, telling me, like, this is the stuff you need to bring for the tournament and stuff like this, because I'd usually never gone to a college tournament. It's a very different atmosphere from, like, high school. So they were super helpful with that. They told me they knew they'd played the course last year. Some of them had played the course before.
Right.
So they knew a little bit about, hey, there's some spots over here, like, hey, you really don't want to be over here on this hole. And the women's team playing the course the day before was super helpful because I talked with them at dinner about the second day course, about how to play that one. Yeah, they were kind of like, go out there, kick butt. They didn't really, even though I'm obviously like a first year and have not played in a tournament, they were like super awesome about being like you're still a member of this team. Like your score definitely is important. And so that really calmed me down. And I really honestly didn't have many nerves in the first tee, which I was surprised about.
Great. Well, what are some memorable holes for you from the weekend?
So probably the most memorable hole was the first hole because I birdied the first hole of my first college tournament, which is kind of one of the parents of the other guys who were there was like joking with the rest of the team, like, how many of y'all birdied the first hole of your first college tournament? So that was pretty special. I almost holed out for eagle on 16 from like 85 yards. So that was a pretty special hole. And then probably 17 on the second day. Terrible tee shot. Absolutely terrible. Par 3. I was way in these trees, and I hit probably one of the greatest punch-out chip shots of my life to like 6 feet and just rolled in the putts like I'd been doing all day. So
awesome. And then, we posted you and Alex were the Bobcats of the Week this week on Instagram, and I have never seen so many people comment about a Bobcat. And like, you have quite the social media following, I guess is what I'm trying to say. What's that like?
It was pretty nice. In high school, I went to not a small high school. I didn't go to a very athletically focused high school, which is obviously very different for most people here who play sports. I mean, they went to big boarding schools.
Right.
I went to like a small public school in Louisiana. And so it was nice to get some recognition because I'd never been recognized for any of doing anything in golf most of my life. So it felt pretty special to be recognized by the school. So I don't know. My friends from back home finally were like, there's something to post about him, so I guess it's time.
It spread. Excellent. Well, I guess now, this is the final term of the fall, but you have a spring season coming up. So what are your thoughts? I know talking with Freddie Curtis on the episode a few weeks back, talking about the simulator and everything. Are you using that a lot in the winter?
I will plan on using it a lot. Obviously, the nice thing about me compared to most of the guys is during Christmas break and Thanksgiving break, I'll be able to go home.
True.
And the weather, obviously, for most people, is probably not very nice, but for me during Thanksgiving and Christmas, it'll be pretty nice to go home and be able to practice on grass. So I think that definitely gives me a nice advantage over not only my teammates, but also like most of the other NESCAC players, which is fantastic. And just having that first college tournament and playing so well definitely makes me feel really good about how I'll do in the future and like how I'm doing on this team. So. And
how about your coach, Sean Warren, one of the more prolific golfers in New England? Really, what's it like working with him?
Yeah, obviously he's like famous not only in New England but outside of New England, and it's pretty awesome. He's a really awesome guy, hilarious coach. He knows a lot about golf, and I would say probably the best part about him having played so many tournaments and having so much experience is that often when you like have a lesson with a coach, you don't really get the mental side of it, which is obviously very important in golf. So having someone who's been in a lot of tournaments, been in major championships, he knows a lot about what it's like to like mentally focus, and that's been probably something I've learned the most since being here.
Great, yeah. So what are some mental tricks maybe you've developed?
Yeah, so a lot in high school, I tried to either during the round, I wouldn't say anything to the people I was playing with, which is kind of for a high school golf tournament, it's kind of rude, but I really wanted to play well, and I was trying to play in college, so I was kind of like, I gotta lock in. But he's taught me that like, just focusing on your shot, you can talk with the guys in your group. You just need to, when the time's to hit your shot, you just need to focus on that and be all in on that. And then really, another part is really committing to the shot. Like even, like you're gonna make bad swings through the round. It just happens. Everybody's human, but being smart about where your miss is and being smart about, hey, I know this is usually what I do wrong, so trying to avoid that. That's definitely been two of like the most important things about him being there.
The cross-country teams compete at the Connecticut College Invitational on Saturday, and a number of Bobcats recorded personal record performances. The top Bates runners competed in the blue race, where the Bates women's team finished in 8th place out of 26 schools. Senior captain Kahryn Cullenberg was one of the Bobcats who recorded a PR, crossing the finish line in the 6K race in 22 minutes, 34.3 seconds. Good for third on the team and 38th overall out of 208 runners. Well, Kahryn, the Connecticut College Invitational, I know a very scenic course. You set a PR for a 6K there. As a senior captain, take us through the race from your perspective, how it went for the Bobcats.
We had the team split into 2 different events by gender, and so it was exciting to see some of the Bobcats race first and already set the standard for a great day right from the start. When we got there, we were getting ready for our warm-ups and everything, and we got to see especially a lot of the younger Bobcats coming in and already setting some really good times. So I feel like that was exciting for us to just go into the race knowing they did it. It should be easy for us to do too. The course was fast. Because I know the past 2 years at that course, it's been a pretty hot day, and so we lucked out with the weather. And for the women's blue race, which was the last race of the day, it was just starting to sprinkle. So that was also hopeful to cool us off a little bit. And there was a little delay for the start, but I think everybody went in with a good attitude. We were hey, it's going to be raining for everybody, and this is the best weather we could ask for. And we definitely, the start was interesting because it was our biggest race so far this season, so we're used to a smaller field and you don't have to be as aggressive. So we definitely all started back further than we should have, which was scary for our coaches and teammates. But I think in total, we collectively did a good job moving up throughout the race. And Coach Feldman makes a spreadsheet with the stats that our teammates who are spectating, they're at the different mile markers, and he can keep track of how many places we moved up. And I think everybody in that blue race moved up noticeable amount from the first mile to the end. So it was definitely a more strategic race. We weren't just racing for time. We definitely knew that we weren't in the best position at first, and we had to just keep passing as many bodies as we could. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you touched on this. These starts when there's so many runners. I mean, over 100. I mean, lots of runners. I know that can be chaotic at times. How do you handle that when there's so many people crowded together like that on the start?
Yeah, it can definitely be tough because it's hard to be aggressive when there's so many people around you and not a lot of space. And our box, because everybody, we get assigned a random box on the starting line, and we were box 22, which was, a little bit right of the center. So, we knew most people would be to the left of us, but there would still be girls closing in from the right. And sometimes you have to put your elbows out a little bit. I don't think anybody fell, which sometimes can happen, but it is tough because the course narrows quickly and has a lot of turns and bushes that will hit you in the face and trees to go on either side of. But yeah, I think last year, something that worked for me was just trying to get to the outside edge as fast as I could, even though it meant running a little extra distance. It would mean I could stay in control of my position in the race, and I told a lot of teammates that had worked, and so I tried to do the same thing again this year, and I spent most of the race on the outside edge, which it definitely seems to work in a race like that.
And for you, I know PRs in cross country can be really course based, but what was it like to get a PR for you?
It definitely felt good. Last year was my first time racing on that course, and I had been sick for a while before that, and I still was getting adjusted to the 6K distance. And so this year I definitely felt much stronger, and I feel like the training I did this summer helped me better adjust to the distance, so it doesn't feel quite as long as it used to. Because I know when I was first getting adjusted to the 6K, even though it's not that much longer than the 5K, like the last little bit is definitely noticeable. And it's hard to, at first, to not start kicking too early in the finish. But I definitely think I've gotten more adjusted to that as time has gone on.
So we've had you on the Bobcast once before, but it was 2 years ago. So people who don't remember, you're from Maine.
Yeah.
So growing up, did you always think, oh, I'm going to go to college, at Bates? Or when did that become kind of in your head, like, I'm going to stay local here for college?
My sister Addie went to Bates, and she was the class of 16, and she was on the team, and she definitely influenced my decision a lot because I heard a lot of good things from her. And it was great because she was able to make it to the College meet this past weekend, and I think that's where the team competed for regionals her senior year. And so I was just like, what was I, like an 8th grader or something at the time, and so like it was a nice full circle to come back there again. But yeah, I think also graduating at the beginning of the pandemic, I was excited to stay local because I knew it would mean I would get to visit my family and that they would be able to come to events when they eventually happened again, because it was definitely tough to see like people who had family far away and not being able to leave the state like that first year. But yeah, I definitely wanted to make sure my family could still be a part of the sporting events and whatnot. Yeah, because my mom was my high school coach. And,
okay.
Yeah, so she definitely has been a big part of my running life. But yeah.
So you've been running for quite some time?
She used to also coach. There was a youth USATF track program in our community, and so I think I started that when I was maybe 4. But I didn't start cross country till we had like kind of a mock program in 4th through 6th grade that only met once a week, so it was very chill, but it was a good way to get introduced to it. And then like it got a little more serious in middle school and then stepped up a little more in high school. But yeah, and I have a brother too who's also older, and so I was always at their meets and like before they were competing still at my mom's meets. So definitely had exposure early on.
Excellent. And what's it like being a senior captain this year?
I've been so proud of everyone. It's been really, it just like more than ever in past years, it's just so rewarding to see everybody improving and really stepping it up and just like taking risks. And I love being co-captains with Isabel May and Sophie Demerit too. It's a really good group, and we have a great first year class. And I feel like we've really become more of a community as a team collectively, like the men and women. So it's just been really inspiring, and yeah, I'm excited to see how the rest of the season goes.
And tell me a little about, working with Coach Feldman, being one of the captains. I imagine you're working with him a lot.
Yeah, we have weekly and sometimes bi-weekly captains meetings, which those are nice because we get to have them in the Commons dining hall with the men also. So it's nice to just like share a meal and discuss what needs to be discussed. But yeah, it's been going well so far. Yeah, just a great group of people.
Excellent. So what are your thoughts on the NESCAC Championship coming up, not this weekend, but the following weekend?
I think this weekend was a good test for us because for the women's team, at least, like, we have seen a lot of success, but this weekend put things back into perspective for us. We had a few teams beat us that we weren't expecting, and I think that was good. I think it was good for us to have a scare and know that we just need to keep working harder. But I think NESCACs will be like a little more in our comfort zone because it will be a smaller field, but definitely good to have that scare going into it. We didn't perform quite where we thought we would this weekend. Like, I still think we have what it takes to do well at NESCACs.
All right, sounds good. Kahryn Cullenberg, senior captain for women's cross country. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
On the men's side, The Bobcats finished 9th out of 26 teams in the 8K Blue Race, and junior captain Ben Huston recorded a personal best time of 25 minutes, 51.3 seconds, good for 4th on the team and 69th overall in the field of more than 200 runners. Well, Ben, first of all, you're a captain, you're a junior. Tell us about that leadership responsibility and how's it been going being one of the team captains this season?
Yeah, so it was a little bit of a surprise last summer when I got the call from Coach Feldman asking if I could be a captain stepping into my junior year. I was a little surprised by that, but I sort of was really willing to accept that responsibility. So far this year, I don't feel like it's changed too much of how I am as an athlete or my role on the team. Of course, there are a few things here and there that I think I have to attend to now. I have captain's meetings. I feel like I can sort of step in more to encourage freshmen or my other teammates. But ultimately, Coach Feldman elected me captain for a reason, and so that was because of a set of behavior that I exhibited during practice. And so I think just trying to keep that in mind and not have it affect too much of who I am as an athlete or who I am on the team.
When I interviewed Coach Feldman, he mentioned that you're very steady, don't let anything get to you. Tell us about your mindset kind of when you race.
Yeah, I try to. My freshman year, I think my mindset was really quite poor, so I've worked to adapt that and change that. Ultimately, cross country is about competing. You can't really compare times between courses, and sometimes courses aren't entirely consistent. So really what matters is going out there and just racing and competing. So that's sort of the mentality that we try to have, very clear-minded, very just go out there, race, win your race. I'm not going to be going out there and breaking any records, any course records, or I'm not going to win these big invites probably. So just going out there and winning my own races between the people around me.
Great. And then you mentioned you just actually came from a captain's meetings. We had the Con College Invitational this past weekend. How did it go from your perspective, from the captains and from the teams, kind of?
I think we were a little bit disappointed walking away from it. We had a lot of PRs, which was a great thing. But ultimately, we didn't have the team result that we were looking for. That was has been a big point of conversation the last couple of days, is that especially the second group that contains our 4-5, however that shakes out, whoever it is, we've been having some difficulty this season pack running and working really together as a team. Some of the races have been just that we get in a mile in and then the pack is splintered apart and all of a sudden you're running alone versus with your teammates that you work out with every day and train with every day. And really that is just such a tremendous help to have that, and we have really been trying to work on that this season. So I think that was one big takeaway, is that that's something that we need to get figured out soon, because we're getting into championship season now. So that's been our biggest takeaway.
And is that more to do with how you start the race, or because obviously the start can be very chaotic, so many runners and everything? What's the key you think to get back to that pack running, perhaps?
I think the start sort of plays into a little bit, but ultimately that's no matter what, it's going to shake out kind of chaotic. It's really just about finding your guys, half mile in, as soon as it's smoothed out a little bit. Finding your guys, communicating with them, and then dying on the hill of I'm going to run with these guys until I can't, no matter what. Right. And that's been something we've been trying to work on, and it can be difficult sometimes, surely, to find people in all the chaos.
Yeah, certainly. And then take us back when you were in high school. What made Bates the place for you?
My year had a little bit of difficulty with some of that because we weren't allowed to visit. Yeah. I couldn't come on a recruit visit and get an overnight or anything like that. I really liked the area. I really liked the idea of running on a team that I knew was, competing at a high level and producing really good athletes. So I think it was mostly that.
Great. And then when did you first start running cross country? How did you get into the sport to begin with, I guess?
I started my sophomore year of high school, and it was because I was super bad at soccer. So I was like, let's try something else. Yeah. Kind of a typical runner origin story in some ways.
And what made you want to stay with it?
I really just loved it. I think I loved the aspect of sort of like it's on you a little bit. You're working with your team and your teammates, but the performance that you have on the day is up to you. You can choose to feel bad for yourself and start to drop back, or you can choose to okay, I'm gonna die on this hill. I'm gonna race as hard as I can, and I really liked that sort of aspect of it.
Great. And your fellow captains, I believe, are Victor Kahryn and Ned Farrington, right? So what's it like working with them?
Oh, it's been great. Ned and Victor have been tremendous role models to me on the team for a while, and so now to get to work with them in that sort of different capacity has been really nice. They're examples of who I want to be on the team, and so to step into that role with them has been really great.
And we mentioned earlier that PRs don't necessarily mean a lot in cross country, but you did set a PR this past Saturday. Mm-hmm. So did you feel like from an individual standpoint the race went well for you?
Individually, yeah. I thought pretty well. Again, there's always more that I can do to try to help my teammates pack run with me and mm-hmm. communicate with them a little more. And so that's an aspect of it. But individually, I thought it was pretty well. I was checked in mentally. I was making moves that I needed to. I was moving up well. So overall, individually, I thought it was a pretty good one.
And the College Invitational is interesting because there's 2 different races for the men and 2 different races for the women. So 4 races overall. Mm-hmm. What was it like being able to watch, all your teammates when you weren't running, perhaps?
Oh, that was fantastic. Yeah. We don't get to watch all of the races because, there are times where we're warming up. But mm-hmm. seeing the men's open race, which was the first race of the day, and seeing how they pack ran, and they all had days, most everyone PR'd and ran really well and strongly, moved up well, worked together. That really set the tone well for us and helped us out a lot, I think.
Excellent. So we have the NESCAC Championships coming up, not this weekend, but the following weekend. So you get some time to prepare. You mentioned the pack running emphasis, but what else you're focusing on, kind of gearing up for NESCACs, where I know the regional meet's huge after that, but you always want to have some conference pride where you finish, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So we're looking to beat some teams that we haven't yet so far this year. We've got some targets set, and ultimately we're looking for a decently high finish. We're looking to beat some important teams going into the regional meet. To set ourselves up well for hopefully the next two meets after that regionals, and set us up well to get into nationals. So there is some pride with it as well. Of course, we want to be beating these teams, but I think the more important thing is going to be looking past that. How does it set us up well? NESCACs is huge because of that.
Well, Ben, thanks so much for joining us on the Bobcast. Really appreciate it, and good luck at NESCACs coming up again a week from Saturday.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
The number 10 nationally ranked Bates field hockey team suffered a 2-0 setback at fellow top 10 ranked team Tufts University on Saturday, but the Bobcats bounced back for their 8th win of the season when they defeated Vermont State Castleton in a 4-3 thriller on Sunday. Senior Ella Blum scored the game-winning goal against the Spartans, and she joined the Bobcast to look back on the win and look forward to a huge weekend. Well, a game-winning goal there against Vermont State Castleton. I saw you elevate, the ball was elevated. You were able to guide it into the back of the cage. Take us through that final play to get the game winner.
Yeah, so I think we had a lot of great chances all game, and I think it's really important to note that the surface we were playing on is not one that we're used to at all. We play on a carpet-like surface called an AstroTurf that gets watered by these 6 huge cannons before we practice and play, and we were playing on a very long, heavily turfed turf that was super thick, which meant it was just really hard to move the ball and to execute a lot of the skills that we're usually so good at. And we definitely dominated a lot of the play, but again, it was a tough adjustment. So at the end there, we knew that we just had to get it back in the back of the net, and whatever way was going to count. It was clear to us that it was going to need to be a scrappy goal, and I think that's why I don't even quite remember what happened besides seeing the ball in the air and then seeing it in the goal. So I knew something good had happened, but I wasn't quite sure how we got there. But again, a win is a win, and I think it just got, instilled a little bit more confidence in our team that, not only is every game not going to be perfect, but we can still find a way to get the win.
Well, you mentioned the surface. Yeah, I watched the video. It's a football field you're playing on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like if you played on Garcelon here.
Yeah.
I mean, and so can you break it down a little bit more why a field hockey surface is so unique compared to other turf fields?
Yeah, so a field hockey field is more like a carpet almost, an AstroTurf, and regular turfs have those little black plastic things on them, and they actually slow down the ball because every time you move the ball, those move with the ball. And when you go to hit the ball and stuff, it's much easier to miss your target because your stick can actually dig into the turf. When you play on an AstroTurf, it's completely flat. It's almost like, it's just between a turf and a gym floor. There's not a lot of room for bumps or anything like that. It's going to go straight. It's probably going to go flat. And that's another big thing about the turf is that the ball bounces a lot more than you expect. And it gets a lot, doesn't get as far as you would hope pretty much ever.
Well, yeah, I saw all 4 goals the Bobcats scored just look chaotic. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, it's super hard to execute, in a lot of the ways we do really well on our corners with a lot of our really strong shooters just because of the surface.
Yeah.
And we're lucky enough to not have to play on that surface most of the year, but it is good practice because obviously we're looking to get a bid this year and the tournament will be hosted on turf as well. So hopefully we'll have some Garcelon practices in our future.
Oh, so the NCAA tournament games, some of them are on field turf.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So the reasoning behind that, although it does change, is that it can be considered an advantage to play on the AstroTurf, the more traditional field hockey surface, because obviously not every team in D3 has that.
Interesting.
There's also a special rule about the type of ball you're allowed to use, because there's actually a dimpled field hockey ball that's a little bit bigger, and it only really works on the AstroTurf, so we're not allowed to play with it in the game despite it gets you a lot more control.
Lots of intricacies in field hockey.
Yeah.
Maybe people aren't necessarily aware of. But so obviously a big week this week for the Bobcats.
Yeah.
Right? Senior day. As a senior, what were your thoughts on that? Connecticut College coming up here.
Looking back, it's hard to feel like a senior. Obviously, I didn't have a freshman year.
Yeah.
But, hopefully this doesn't come off the wrong way. But I think that my sophomore year, my grade as well as our fifth years who we're super lucky to have, and our current juniors just kind of took a look around and said, we want more than this, and we know we have more to give. And all credit to everyone who was part of that team that's still here, because I really think we changed the culture of the team in a lot of ways, and we set new standards that allowed us to be as successful as we were last year and this year. And it's really emotional to kind of sit back and let that sink in and realize, when you didn't complain about getting up at 5 a.m. for running and lifting, you were, getting us to that next level. And I just really applaud everyone who's graduating in the leadership roles they've had. And it's so nice to know that the juniors are going to uphold that level, if not better it.
Great. And then, I guess keys to success, you have Connecticut College. And then the next day, you have Williams. That game got moved because of weather, and now all of a sudden it's a massive game between two top 10 teams. So what are your thoughts on keys to success there? I mean, you beat Williams last year in overtime, but obviously they remember that, right?
Yeah. I think last year, people could say it gives them the edge or us the edge, but I will say that was also on a turf field. Definitely not as bad as Castleton, but we know we perform better at home, and obviously we're
undefeated at home.
Yeah, undefeated at home, so we want to keep that up.
Yeah.
But I don't have any doubts that we can beat them. But again, a team is a team, right? And we make mistakes every day in practice and games, and we're really good at turning those mistakes into positives and growing for them. And I think we've continued to grow all season, but it's going to be a battle for sure. And I think if we can win the mental component of showing up and being ready and kind of going for every 50-50 ball, I think that game is going to be ours.
And for you, as you touched on being a senior, but also this whole team, obviously you have first years, but you brought almost everyone back from last year. What has that experience been like running it back with a very similar roster?
It's been really great. I think one of the best things about the group of returners is that no one is really set in their ways. Everyone is always willing to be adaptable and to change for whatever is best for the team. So while a lot of things look the same, a lot of things are different. And I think, it's just great to have a really adaptable group who, beyond anything, prioritizes winning. It's just not about the individual on this team.
Great. Have you seen yourself kind of develop as a player these last few years, from your first year, your sophomore year, kind of till now?
Oh, now you're trying to get me emotional, but I definitely have grown. I mean, as a player, last year I think was a real breakout year for me in terms of what I could bring to the team, and I was really, really excited to be, getting minutes. And this summer was just a real push for me in terms of being the best I could. And I got to work a lot with Anna Lindice and Amanda Zerbe because we all live close to each other. And we just spent the whole summer playing together. And it gave me a lot of time to think about what Bates field hockey has meant to me. And it's just given me a lot of room to grow mentally. And being on a team, it's hard. There's no college athlete that's easy as pie, love every second of it. It's a mental challenge. And there's definitely been days where it sucked. You know what I mean? That's just the reality of it. But it's something special when you always want to be there the next day. And I think that that's just grown for me since my sophomore year. And I think that the way the team embraces each other has only grown from that too. And I think that has allowed me to grow as a person.
Excellent. Ella Blum, the game-winning goal at Vermont State Castleton, and now the Bobcats finally get to return home for 3 straight home games to conclude the regular season, and then we'll see what's after that. It's going to be exciting. Now, again, they're 10th in the country right now. Ella, thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
The football team went up by 10 points twice on Bowdoin, but the host Polar Bears rallied to defeat the Bobcats 35-20 Saturday afternoon. Head coach Matt Coyne recaps the game and looks forward to another road contest, this one at Middlebury. Well, Coach, you guys grabbed a couple of 10-point leads there against Bowdoin, and for the team, Bowdoin was able to strike back fairly quickly. I mean, what did you guys emphasize, looking at film, kind of going over how to handle getting ahead early in the game like that?
Yeah, I think, for the first time we came out and played complimentary football in the first drive together. We got a 3-and-out. We went down and scored actually when we got the ball. When we got a 3-and-out, we got the ball back, went down and got the 3 points, and we're up 10-0. And I think, what we stressed is just we gave up a couple explosive plays again. It's just, we gave up a swing pass that should have went for, 10 yards max, went for 40. And then we gave up a play on verticals that, we looked at all week. We knew they were running that, and it's one of those that we just have to execute and understand the situations. But, we saw some growth there in the beginning of the game to take a lead, to now we got to learn how to play with a lead. You know what I'm saying? And it's the evolution and the growth, I think, of those new situations that some of these kids are in.
Stephen Garrett, he had 4 catches on the opening drive, and I know you guys were trying to get him the ball the rest of the game, but Bowdoin was able to kind of contain him after that. What changed, if anything?
Yeah, I think, obviously they did a really good job of getting pressure on Colton. I think as the game wore on, they definitely – Colton got hit a bunch, and he's a warrior, and he played his tail off. Haven't played that position. I know how difficult it is to withstand that throughout a game. It wears on you. And they just did a good job of really, getting 1 to 2 guys on Steve every play. I think when you look at it, I think that allowed Drew to have a really good game, because, we were able to find that third piece, of the offense with, Serge and Steve and Drew stepping up. So I think we had our opportunities throughout that game, and I think, Drew stepping up kept us in that moment.
That's my next question. Drew Sachs, a breakout game for him. How great was that to see? Because I know he's had his struggles early in the year, but a huge game there against Bowdoin.
Yeah, I think, Drew's a guy that just comes to work every day. And, I know he's had some limitations. He had, his hand got hurt. I believe it was the Colby game. Could have been a tough game. Can't remember. But he's worked his butt off. He's been a great teammate, and I think he's seeing that capability of what you can do in the game like that should give you extreme confidence going into the next game. You can do it. You've done it. He made a ton of difficult catches too. It wasn't just like wide open catches. They were sideline catches in traffic. So very, very pleased with how he played as well.
And, in terms of the offense, obviously some teams can just go 5 wide and throw it all over the place, but most teams want to have some balance there. So what's it going to take to get the run game going, you think?
Yeah, I think we gotta find the right pieces up front. I think Bowdoin's a very good, a tough defense to run the ball against. To do a ton of twist blitzes, stunts. They have athletic players up there. I think experienced players up front that have played for a while. But yeah, we definitely have to find a way to find some balance there. And I think it's difficult to just spread it out the whole game. But if you're gonna do that, you have to be able to find some screen games. You have to be able to find some of those runs that aren't just handoffs. But we definitely struggled throughout the game, and we knew that it wasn't our day to be able to run the ball against that defense. And so offensively, we went to more of an air raid attack to try to move the ball down the field.
The first half was kind of a shootout, and I thought it was going to keep going, but the second half was very much a defensive struggle. What changed in your mind on both sides?
I was actually very, very impressed with our defense of how they came out in that second half. We had a ton of 3-and-outs. There was only a couple of drives where they got 1 or 2 first downs. We made some contested plays. Obviously they scored coming down, with like 2:30 left in the game when you're trying to, situation. I talk about it when we went down. It was 28-17 when we went down and we didn't punch that score in. To make it 28-24, we had to settle for the field goal, which gave us a 1-possession game. But finishing the drive right there is a huge point in the game because you're gonna call the defense differently down on the other end at the end of the game. You're gonna be less man pressures because we're trying to get them out of field goal range because we know with that time left, 3 points unless we can recover on sides and move the ball, it's going to be an insurmountable lead, rather than 28-24 where you're okay with giving up a field goal. You're like, hey, we could do that. So that's the things behind the scenes that you're thinking about, as you go through a game. But defense, their defense is a good defense. They have some good players that, like I said, a lot of those kids have been there since the COVID year. That's when they were recruited there, and they've done a really good job of developing their program. And but we were right there, in a rivalry game at their field, to be able to take that from them.
Any other thoughts you want to mention about the game? Any other guys we maybe haven't talked about who stood out, or any other things you want to mention about that matchup?
I think overall, I think defensively we played really, really hard. Really, the effort and energy has been there all 5 weeks. I understand the record isn't what we want it to be, but we're getting better, and that's part of it. It's part of the growth. And I know that might not be what everybody wants to hear, but that's the facts, and I think that's part of how we're building this program. I think Matt Juno on defense, really played very well. I think he really plays extremely hard, and he cares about it more than anyone, that I've seen. Yeah, he loves it. He loves football, loves the game. And I think, offensively, again, like Colton, I think he really stuck, hung in there and stuck through it and took some hits there. And we just got to keep getting better and get ready for a really tough opponent this week.
That was my next question, because Middlebury beat Trinity last week, so they're clearly a very good team again. What are you seeing on tape from them?
I mean, 9 out of their 11 defensive players are seniors, and a bunch of them are fifth-year seniors. So their experience, they only have one new defensive player from last year. But that being said, on the defense side, we were able to move the ball against them. We did a really good job last year. We were in a 33-28 game. But they're very strong up front, really good D-line, and their experience. And then obviously to be able to go down and win at Trinity is something that not a lot of people do. So I know they're going to be excited about that one. But for us, it's just, again, focusing on us. Offensively, they have a really good quarterback, good receivers, and they throw the ball. And that's one of the things we got to focus on this week, is just tightening it up, being in the right positions, and then ultimately it's about making the plays when we're in those positions. But we know what they're going to do, and we know we respect them. But you play your brand of football, we focus on ourselves. We have an opportunity to win any game we play, and that's what we're going to address this week, and work really hard to just keep focused on us, getting better, playing hard.
All right, Coach, thanks so much.
Thank you.
The rowing teams are back in action this Sunday as they head to Boston for the world-famous head of the Charles Regatta. Senior captains Lucy Del Col and Charlie Berman join the show to give us a preview. Excited for the head of the Charles Regatta this Sunday. We have Charlie Berman and Lucy Del Col with us here on the Bobcast. Charlie, let's start with you. First of all, I want to ask, last year, you were honored with an All-America award. What was that season like for you from your perspective, you in that first varsity A?
It was a real roller coaster.
Yeah.
I mean, we had some ups and downs that season, but it all came together really well. The IRA results and then All-American, those were both awesome. And Isaac Levinger getting that as well. Those were two guys that, well, really him, that I thought earned it, but it's just a nice way to cap off a season that had its moments but really ended well.
It was a young boat last year, so a lot of returnees this year, right?
Yeah, we're only missing 2 guys out of the 1V. One of them are Cox and the other are bow seat. Mm-hmm. So plenty of returning talent and a nice mix of grades too. We still got some more senior guys who've been around the block a couple times. Plenty of young guys still eager to work, less cynical than the rest of us. So a really good mix.
Excellent. Now, Lucy, you were abroad last fall, so how excited are you to once again, Cox, at this huge regatta coming up this Sunday?
Yeah, I'm definitely very excited. The other day I kind of looked back at my maps and I realized that I haven't done this in a whole year, and I have to review that, but I'm feeling good about it. Ollie Celine, the other senior coxswain, has now done it. This is her 5th time, so she has been down the course quite a few times, so I'm getting some information from her and watching videos, going over it all, but it was kind of my home adjacent course in high school, so I spent a lot of time on it in high school, feel very comfortable with it, and I'm excited to be a little more in the mix. Sophomore year we were bow number 1, so we didn't have anyone really around us. Wellesley was chasing us, but they never caught us. But this year we're bow number 4, so we have Tufts and Wellesley right in front of us, which will be really exciting to chase them down.
Yeah, and that's what people need to know is, right, it's a staggered start. So take us through how that's different from a standard 2K race in the spring where everyone starts at once.
Yeah, so everyone's on a stagger. So we're starting off bow number 4, so we'll have 3 crews right in front of us and then 20-something crews behind us. And especially in that first stretch, the powerhouse stretch, it's really important for passing people, making moves, because you want to line yourself up for those later on, like the big turns near Elliott, so that you don't have to be passing then. We've been doing some work on building speed, being ready to go when we need to, so hopefully that'll set us up for some good lines going through that course.
Great. And Charlie, what's this race like from your perspective compared to this spring? Obviously, it's longer, it's more twists and turns and whatnot, right?
It's a real mess. You don't really know what's going on. You're in another boat's wake. Coxswain's making all sorts of calls that you've never heard in practice just to get around boats. It's a lot of chaos, but it's also a lot of fun. That's really one of the only races where you get the crowds that you do at the Charles. So you come through Elliott and it's just like a wall of noise, which as a rower is not something you often experience and is really cool to experience that one time.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, your coxswain this year is a first year, right? So what's it like working with him?
It's honestly been really good. He had big shoes to fill. Aiden Braithwaite was an awesome coxswain for us, but Darian also has a lot of talent and he's been eager to learn. He's eager to do things the way that coach wants him to do it. He takes feedback really well. He steers really well. We couldn't be happier with him as a freshman coxswain coming in.
Great. And Lucy, give me an idea of the returnees for the 1V this year.
Yeah, so we have, including myself, 3 returners in the 1V. A lot of members of the 2V from last year moved up, and then we have 1 freshman in the boat who's stroking the boat this year, which is very exciting. And then the 2V is full of some returners, some first years. We have a lot of young talent this year, which is really great, a good first-year class. The 4 is coxed by sophomore Audrey Kahryn, who has never raced ahead of the Charles before, so that is really exciting for her. She's getting super hyped up, and we're having a meeting tomorrow with all the coxswains to kind of go over race plans, share information, which will kind of be kicked off by senior coxswain Ollie Celine with the most amount of times down the course. So we're really excited for them, really excited for the 2/8 racing this week.
What's it like being a captain? I know a coxswain, you're a leader anyway, but now adding on the captain duty, right?
Yeah, it feels like similar to last year when I'm at the boathouse. It's pretty much the same things, like calling quiet sits, telling people where to be and when, but then there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that I wasn't knowing about in the past. I just worked on the first gear order that I was meant to do, and I know that Charlie did one also, and that was interesting. It was definitely a new side of captainship that I didn't realize went on, but it's on the way, so successful so far.
Excellent, Charlie. Yeah, what's it been like for you being one of the captains?
It's definitely a new experience. I've been very lucky that the guys have been easygoing. There haven't been disciplinary issues. I haven't been hauled down to coach's office to answer for someone. Yeah. But as Lucy said, the behind-the-scenes stuff is a new element. I was working on the winter training plan before you came down. It's just all that sort of stuff is new to me. But it's been fun. It's been a good transition.
Excellent. So, Lucy, just any thoughts you wanted to share about the Charles coming up this Sunday and what you're most looking forward to, perhaps?
I'm really excited to go back down the course again. Like you said, it's been a whole year since I was there, so I'm excited for that. And like Charlie mentioned, it's a really fun race. There's great energy, lots of fans. I have friends and family coming, so I'm excited for that part of it.
And Charlie, how about you? I mean, obviously the men's team, we've seen some great finishes from you guys, as well as women, of course, throughout the years. But what are some final thoughts you have on this upcoming race?
We're looking to build on those great finishes. Coach has put a lot of trust in us for this race. We've unwrapped our flagship, the Kratos, so that's our top boat. Mm-hmm. We're really lucky to be racing it, and we think that we have a good group of guys in the 1V. We also got excellent rowers in the 2V, a lot of young talent, but again, guys eager to work, and they think they can really make their mark on this race. And then, of course, the guys in the 4. That's a lot of older guys. They've been around and they haven't gotten the chance, so I'm just really excited to see those guys race the Charles in a Bates uni for the first time.
Excellent. I'll head to Charles for the Bobcats this Sunday afternoon. We have the link to watch live at GoBaseBobcats.com. Charlie Berman, Lucy Del Col, thanks so much. The women's soccer team bounced back from a loss at Tufts to win 3-0 Sunday over Colby Sawyer. And the men's soccer team started this week off right Tuesday with a thrilling 2-1 win over UMaine Farmington at Russell Street Field, as junior Tifaya Gunlaye scored the game-winning goal with just 2 seconds remaining. Men's soccer, women's soccer, and field hockey celebrate their respective senior days this Saturday when they all host Connecticut College. Find the complete schedule for upcoming events at GoBatesBobcats.com, and we'll catch you next time on the Bates Bobcast.